a troublemaker. I've been a late night player. I've been broke as a joke. I've been a money maker. I've been a record breaker, taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, lock, and stop and let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop. It's like it stings. We make a whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school, we think we're so cool. We take it back to the past, we gonna act a fool. Enough jumps, the middle finger make my yay.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable, Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, on this really picture-perfect spring day, May 24th. Let's just, carbon copy this day. I would take days like this. 80s are good, 90s are not so good, but like a day like this is just perfect weather. So we could take a few more of these, especially with all the weather we had last week. We hope everybody is recovered by this point, and certainly some extreme weather took place in this area last week, and a lot of damage. Bethel and Danbury certainly got their fair share, but Brookfield and New Milford and New Fairfield more regionally were hit, I think, harder this time, and serious damage out there. So hopefully everybody is cleaned up from that, and hopefully we don't have to deal with any more tornadoes coming out of nowhere and touching down. Also, you hear in the background Fatty Roots. Remember Fatty Roots? I was supposed to go film a new music video for them at a festival up in Bethany, Connecticut. Bethany and Beacon Falls, and that area got slammed by tornadoes as well, so that was postponed. So that did not happen either, as big damage was done up there. Fatty Roots is playing another festival, Riverfront Festival in Shelton, on the weekend of, I think they're playing June 10th, which is a Sunday. We're waiting to see, probably won't be until fall, until this festival, Local Palooza, gets rescheduled. But we'll see, but we just hope everybody's okay and everybody gets cleaned up and everybody gets back to normal. My right-hand man, Mr. Bob Rowe Jr. is here. And,
yes, I am.
I know Bob has been out there seeing things firsthand, him and all the first responders and firefighters and policemen out there. What have you seen out there, Bob?
I seen some damage that I wouldn't want to see again.
Yeah.
I mean, firsthand was, I seen trees as big as, as round as you could big, and tree roots pulled out of the ground like they were branches.
Right. That has been the growing trend with these storms. We were talking just before the show. Remember, everybody does the snowstorm on Halloween a few years back. That was really the first time we saw massive amounts of trees being just uprooted from the ground. This year, those late snowstorms we had in the season also brought that sort of thing, and now again, tornadoes tend to grab and rip and twist trees, but also maybe because of the saturation of the ground, trees are just being uprooted in these storms lately. So that's an alarming trend.
Let's put it this way: we had something happen. It was up at 40 Acre Mountain. We had a 10-year-old we couldn't get to. Because there was trees and wires down everywhere, and they tried to get through with chainsaws and everything, and they couldn't get through it because that's how bad the storm hit.
Right.
Storm was going anywhere from, in Danbury it was 100. It went up to like 115 mile an hour winds, and it was moving at 70 miles an hour.
That is some serious power behind that.
But the storm only lasted less than.
It was
15,
quick.
16 minutes.
Yeah, it was very fast.
But in that period of time, it just did so much damage.
Massive damage. And you said in Brookfield, they said the winds were up to 150?
50 at one time.
Wow. Very extreme. And what did we lose? 4 people?
4 people. One in Brookfield, or 2 in Brookfield, 1 in New Milford, on New Fairfield, and they had 2 touchdown in, or 2 of them died in Putnam County. So it was
a horrifying event.
When you have to go out in that mess and that rain, and it never stopped raining, that was the bad part.
And then we had more heavy rain after that as well, as the weekend was a wash. All right, well, that's we will move on from that sobering topic. We'll mention Bob's show Spotlight on Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 12. Our director is in there, Mr. Mike Toohey. He was in the studio. We were here, actually, when the storm hit and the whole system went down. So we didn't do a show last week. His show, Expose Cinema, Friday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 1. I went to the door here and looked out because
and the sky was as green as you could see.
Well, yeah, but one of the, at the top of a telephone pole right up on the corner there exploded as I was looking out the window. That was pretty freaky to see. But yeah, it was a crazy looking storm. We just stayed here for a while and let it pass before we took off. All right, the phone number 203-792-4101 is the number if you want to give a call. We are here until 7 o'clock. Let's mention the Celebrity Breakfast and some other Westerners events. The breakfast is June 8th. Chris Chambliss, the man who was a big part of some Yankee success in the
Back
late
in the 70s.
And I'm sure he'll have plenty of stories to tell. So get down there. It's the beginning of the season. The baseball season starts, what, on Tuesday?
Starts Tuesday the 5th.
How many games before the breakfast? One or two?
There's 3 games before the breakfast.
3 games before the breakfast. So the season will be underway.
Yeah.
And then they'll have the big breakfast in the morning and then a game that Friday night at home. Dave King was telling me he is called in to sing his Westerners theme song once again.
Yes, he is.
He'll be there for the home opener.
Yes, which is Tuesday
Which
night.
is that Tuesday game, not for that Friday night game,
Right.
which is typically when he would be there after the breakfast.
But the league this year they're starting early. There's just something different they're doing.
Well, Major League started early. How did
Yes.
that work out? A lot of rainouts and snow
Oh, yeah.
cancellations, right? Hopefully the weather will be good enough. You know, like I said, today's weather we take.
Oh, I hope I would love
to.
to have every game, all our games to be like that. Be
Right.
that perfect weather, you know.
And then you were saying we got a couple other dates to look to.
Yes.
June 21st, First Responder
Responders
Night.
Yes. All first responders, fire, police, EMS, any are more than welcome. Just all they need to do is wear some type of logo. Mm-hmm. And if they want to bring their trucks, they're more than welcome to bring their trucks down.
Okay. And then July 12th is a Military Appreciation Day.
Yeah. Any of our past or present, military are welcome that night.
Uh-huh. And then the second annual
Yes.
Christmas in July on July 21st.
It's a double header.
Santa Claus?
Santa Claus actually shows up. He makes
What about Buddy the Elf?
Huh?
What about Buddy the Elf?
He didn't
You're
show up
pretty
last.
tall, Bob. Maybe you could dress up as Buddy the
Yeah,
Elf.
okay. We team that with Family and Children's Aid, so they get kids, get gifts for the kids. Last year we got like 2.5, 3 boxes, so this year we'd like to get double that if we could,
Okay.
because that helps out with them during the year for.
And what's the deal with was it last year or the year before they have beer on some of the games, right?
Thirsty Thursdays.
Thirsty Thursdays.
Yes.
So when they play at home on a
Thursday night,
they
we have a beer. Yeah,
tent?
we have the beer tent anyway, but Thirsty Thursday, I think it's some type. They have a special beer that night.
But they're now selling beer on every game?
Yes, they are.
Ah.
Yep, the beer tent is open
And
every
good
night.
prices over there on most everything. I would imagine the beer is in that same good price range, right?
Oh yeah.
It's a family.
There's a lot of different
well,
specials going to be going on. I know they're still talking about trying to get everything before once the season starts. And the 2nd of June, we got the clinic, kids clinic. It's before the breakfast or before school.
So
before
June
they start.
2nd.
June 2nd.
So that is
From 9 to 12.
9 to, okay. All right, that's a lot of Westerners stuff. We got a lot of
all
other
former
things to get
major
to.
leaguers will be there. So
How many?
about 6 or 7 former major leaguers show up.
Okay, so it's a good event. It's all day. That's a long day, right?
Yeah.
Saturday.
Saturday. Yep.
So get on down there for that.
Kids will be here on next Friday.
The players?
30 players.
Coming in. Are they all got houses yet?
I'm pretty sure they have it pretty much under control.
All right. All right. We'll see how the Westerners do this year. Is this the 3rd season with the new manager?
Yes, Josh Perrell.
And he's still coaching Bridgeport?
Yes, he is.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. Hopefully they got a good season. Last year was up and down. Remember, it was streaky.
We started out like a house of fire. We were
It
5
was
games
streaky. It
in
was
first
all
place.
Year. They would win 5, lose 5.
Yeah. Then we
They
started having
ended on
injuries with the pitching and.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some other stuff, because we got plenty to get to.
Okay.
Tonight, Game 5, deep in the heart of Texas, Houston, and that series is tied 2-2. Everybody, this is the thing about, analysts and these guys, these experts.
Right.
So who had the best record in the NBA this year, Bob?
Houston, right?
That would be the Houston Rockets. They are the number 1 seed overall, East and West. So why everybody says they can't win games against Golden State? I mean, come on, they had the best team in basketball.
Right.
And the first 3 games were blowouts, one way or the other.
Right.
And Game 3 in particular, 40-point-something blowout for Golden State in Oakland. And, it was looking like Golden State was taking control of the series, but no. Rockets 95-92 in Game 4 in Golden State. They get to come back home now for this Game 5 in Houston, and they will try to win this. They've split. They won at home, lost one at home.
Right.
Won on the road, lost one on the road. So the teams have split home wins, road wins. So both teams can win on the road. We've seen that. But it should be a good thing. Golden State, we've talked about this. This is the other thing, too. The commentators can't figure out, is it either one or the other? There's never an in-between ground.
Right.
Curry can get hot at times, and he also can still not be 100%. He's coming off an injury, and that doesn't mean that he's going to get hot like he did in Game 3 and have his moments, but it also doesn't mean that he isn't 100%, and he can get taken out of games at different times, which he was in Game 4. So he's not 100%.
No, he's not.
And now Iguodala missed Game 4, which is big for Golden State. And if he can't come back in Game 5, he had, I think, like a knee bang in Game 3. And he's their toughest defensive player and more all-purpose player. So the Hampton 5, as they call him. Remember when Kevin Durant was a free agent, he went to the Hamptons and had teams come visit him for the recruiting. And the 4 main Golden State players, including Iguodala, went there and recruited him. So they're calling them the Hampton 5. They were down to the Hampton 4. Maybe it's the Hampton 3.5 with Curry not 100%. And Houston is that top seed. So tonight's game should be very interesting, especially if Houston wins to go up 3-2. Golden State would have to win Game 6 and then Game 7 on the road. So that is interesting. Last night in Boston, Bob.
Yes, your Celtics.
Before the show, oh my gosh, Bob's giving me a hard time. What is with your Celtics? I thought they lost last night. Bob wanted a sweep. He was accepting nothing less after the first 2 games. Game 3 and 4 in Cleveland obviously did not go well. Game 3 was a terrible game for the Celtics. Game 4 looked bad early,
but they came back to.
But they played. They got their offense going in the second quarter.
Yeah.
Defensively, they still gave up 68 in that first half, which was disgraceful. But the second half was much better. They got back to doing what they were doing defensively, and their offense was still clicking. And I think they took the blueprint from the second half of that Game 4 game, and I felt much better about how they would fare in Game 5 back at home, where they are now 10-0 in the playoffs at home. And sure enough, they had full control of this game pretty much throughout in Game 5, en route to a 96-83. Pretty ugly game, but they held Cleveland. And there we got one of your favorite shots, Bob, as Bron's driving, grabbing the jersey of the defender with the extended forearm, which he does all the time.
And he gets away with it.
In Game 3, Bob, I couldn't help but wonder, imagine a world where LeBron James would have to play through foul trouble. Because early in Game 3, the young Jaylen Brown picked up 2 tic-tac fouls right away. He was taken out of the game, was a non-factor, only played 21 minutes in foul trouble throughout. And I thought to myself as I saw Bron hacking Aaron Baines on the way to a dunk. And then to make matters worse, they didn't call the foul. And then ESPN the whole rest of the night in Bron's highlight package kept showing that block and saying, look at this great defense. He fouled him. And then minutes later, he fouled Semi Ojeleye en route to a dunk attempt as well with 2 hands. The Baines one was a one-handed foul, ripped through him. And then he grabbed Ojeleye with 2 hands and threw him to the ground. And I thought to myself, All right, imagine if he had to play through foul trouble. First of all, if you don't call the fouls, it's points taken off the board because you don't get the basket and or the free throws.
Right.
It's also a momentum swing because then the crowd goes nuts because they think he made a great play.
Right.
And it's also a situation where he does not have to go to the bench and play in foul trouble like every other human being who has ever been an NBA player in the history of the world has to do. And it changes the way the games are played, and he gets to play carefree throughout. So, you know, the officiating, the no foul trouble, but Celtics did come back hard, came back strong, and they got it done last night, played great defense. So we mentioned the blueprint from the second half of Game 4,
right.
The way they felt they could look at the tape and say, all right, Game 3 was a wash, we throw that out. The beginning of Game 4 wasn't great, but look at what we did, you know, as the second quarter went on and then in the second half, and what we did in Game 1 and 2. That's our blueprint. We can get back to that. They did it in Game 5 as they really held them in check. And can they now bring that blueprint, bring that mindset and that energy to a full game on the road in Game 6 in Cleveland and end this in Cleveland, or are they going to be forced to go 11-0 at home in the playoffs and win a Game 7 at home against a Bron team, which you never want to have to face, no matter what the way it's going, because for one, he could get the calls. For two, he could go up for 40-plus points again like he has 6 times in this playoffs. He tied. Do you know who he tied for the most 40-plus point games in a playoff run?
Well,
that would have been a good guess, but it was Allen Iverson, the answer. I think sometimes we forget how great Iverson was. AI did it for the Sixers. Had to be the year they went to the NBA Finals,
right, yeah.
And they lost to the Lakers. I think that was, 2001? 2000 maybe?
Somewhere around that time, yeah.
But we forget sometimes about these great players that have come through the league, and Iverson was certainly one of them. But I'm hoping that they can carry this blueprint from what they did in the latter portion of Game 4 and then what they did in Games 1, 2, and 5 and get it done on the road. They need a little bit more poise, a little bit more calmness. They need to remember what they can do. They have the matchups on offense. They can put, you know, some of these guys on the Cavs in the torture chamber, I'd like to say, because some of these guys cannot guard Tatum, cannot guard Brown. You know, they need to spread the ball around. They need to hit some big shots. So we'll see if they can do that and they can end it in 6. Celtics fans were chanting at the end of the game last night, Celtics in 6, Celtics in 6. I'd like to see it end in 6. See this run by the Cavs.
We really
don't want them back in the finals, much like you didn't want to see Pittsburgh Penguins back in the finals in the Stanley Cup. We are tired of seeing the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James teams with all his, you know, and the other thing is the overreactions, the overstating, and the underappreciation. They talk like this Cleveland team has no players on it whatsoever. Kyle Korver's an all-time great shooter. He's on this squad. You know, Kevin Love was the most sought-after free agent in the NBA still in the last 3-4 years when they went out and got him. And they have other players that went out and got George Hill is a good player. You know, they have Tristan Thompson. The guy makes he's got a $90 million contract.
Right.
You know, I would think he'd be able to play. J.R. Smith, who I think is, you know, a bum, but he can hit shots, he can make plays. So it's not like they don't have, you know, the announcers make it seem like it's LeBron James and nobody, he's one on 5.
Else. Yeah.
You know, give me a break with all this nonsense.
Let's put it this way. LeBron's not Michael.
He is not Michael. Michael would not have been fatigued in a Game 5 on the road like Bron was, clearly. That's the other thing I like about this series now. Why the NBA gave them 3 days off between Game 2 and 3 was, I never figured that out. But now, Game 5, Game 6, Game 7, if necessary, 1 day off between games, no extra days of rest for travel. They're going to go every other day throughout. So if he was tired last night, I mean, that was unbelievable. Why was he tired in a Game 5 situation? They had all those days off. I mean, I don't understand. You know, as you said, he is not Michael. You never see Michael, you know, just give up on a game. How many turnovers did Bron have in this game last night? 6 at least. He played poorly in the game. And, you know, you just never saw these moments. You know, you see, of course.
Know what happens? If he loses, the crybaby I will come out.
Michael never cried like this.
No.
That's the other thing that the commentators and the analysts are saying. You know, he would move past, maybe we'd have to start talking about him moving past Jordan if he gets this team with nobody on it to the NBA Finals this year. You can talk about who's on the team all you want, but you also have to talk about who are they playing.
Right.
You know, round one, they took out an Indiana team that was basically rebuilding. Indiana traded their best player, Paul George, last year, and was a young team that was rebuilding and pushed them to 7 this year. So who did they beat there? Then you beat a Toronto team who has never done anything.
Right.
Toronto did not make any moves in the offseason to improve. They actually made moves to lose players last year after their, you know, this run they've had where they've been good in the regular season but can't win. They had nobody defensively to match up. So Toronto is a team that's never won anything, and the Celtics, obviously my team, who I am completely jacked up for watching these games, and I am buying in all the way. But let's not forget, they're the youngest team in the NBA, and their 2 top players they went out and got, Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, are not playing.
Right.
So, you know, and they have some other injuries to other key role players. Tice and Shane Larkin are both out. So, you know, they're playing only 7 guys, maybe 8 at times. And, you know, so if the Cavaliers were to get to the finals, you'd have to say, so what? Who did they play when you break it down like that? And how would that move him past Jordan? I have no idea what these guys are talking about. It's really ridiculous. All right, let's keep it moving to the NHL. We will get to the Strange Man stats of the week. We won't talk about how Strange Man really has gone off the ledge with some voice modulations, but he did send them in. Let's get right to it. And I know Bob is happy that Washington beat the Penguins in the last round. Were you happy that they beat Tampa Bay? Because I kind of was after what Tampa did.
I was. I really was.
You know, I don't have anything against Tampa per se. I do think Tampa has a great team. They've been around, you know, we mentioned 3 out of the last 4 years in the Eastern Conference Finals, made the finals once already. But I just was really, I couldn't figure out why they got such a, the benefit of the whistle. In the Bruins series, it was unbelievable, and I'm still not over that at all. It was ridiculous. And then it started to get the same way in this Washington series. They were getting a lot of the whistle as they turned a 2-0 deficit to a 3-2 lead.
Right.
But I kind of was rooting for Washington to get over the hump. Ovechkin's been in the league, 13 years now?
Yes, he has.
First time to the Eastern Conference Finals, which is crazy, and now to the Stanley Cup Finals first time. He's never won a gold medal for any of the Olympics. And then this year when the team that was playing under the banner of the Russian flag played. Remember, the NHL didn't allow the players to go this year, and then that team won without him. So it's been bad luck for him. But all right, the stats of the week, Strange Man stats of the week. Las Vegas Knights, first expansion team in the NHL since 1968, that's 50 years, St. Louis Blues, to advance to the Stanley Cup Finals. And Las Vegas Knights had 109 points in their inaugural campaign, which had them having the 5th best record in all of the NHL. There was times, long stretches of the year this year where they were the number 1 team overall. They ended up 109. Nashville, I think, was 117. Winnipeg, the team they beat, was the 2nd best team in the NHL. I didn't realize that. They were right ahead of Tampa and Boston, who were like 113, 112 points. And Winnipeg, I think, was 114, and then we mentioned Vegas at 109. And they will be home ice. They had a better record than the Capitals, who was right behind that. And the Capitals make it to the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time in 20 years. 1998 was the last time. And they came from behind after being ahead in the series to do it. Strange Man over and out. So it's going to be interesting, but it was crazy. How about that, Bob? They fell behind 3-2 after being up 2-0, and then they shut them out 3-0, 4-0 in Game 6 at home, Game 7 on the road. A couple other things to mention. The Rangers hired a head coach today, David Quinn, and he was the head man for Boston University. So that was interesting. 35th head coach all time. For the Rangers. And Lou Lamoriello takes over the Islanders. He led the Devils to 3 cups, and he most recently turned around the Toronto Maple Leafs and got them back in the playoffs. All right, we only got a few minutes, so I'm going to have to run through it. Yankees have lost 2. Bullpen really blew it last night in Texas. In a game they lost 12-10. They were leading that game 10-5. Aaron Boone got ejected 2 days ago in Texas as well.
His first ejection as a manager.
And the Yankees suddenly find themselves back in second place.
Yes.
Mostly maybe because they didn't play at all last week with all the rain in D.C. area. They missed out, so they've played 3 fewer games than the Red Sox, and the Yankees are off today, and the Red Sox are playing today. Yankees 31-15, Red Sox 34-15, won 4 in a row. Pitching has really gotten much better. Mookie Betts, Mookie, batting .364, leads the league with 16 home runs, 49 runs scored, 11 stolen base, 63 hits. Mookie having an MVP season. They're at Tampa tonight, home for Atlanta, still in first place in your division there, Bob. And the Mets,
third place.
24-21. They swept the Diamondbacks. Looked like they were getting back to feeling good. They beat the Marlins 4 in a row, and then they lose the last 2 of that Marlins series. And it was an all too familiar feeling.
Yes.
With
we
Familia
got a new
blowing,
player, but it didn't.
And he's blowing great pitching performances by your top 2 guys. You can't have that happen. And they signed Joey Bautista, to join the old man club.
The over 30 club.
The over 30 club. Hey. What do you think, real quick? We only got 2 minutes, Bob.
Okay.
Everybody's talking on the radio. It's time to blow the Mets up and trade their top pitchers. Do you agree with that?
No.
No.
It's not. They're
24-21.
We're not even to.
Those wins they had at the beginning of the season still count. They're over 500. They have 2 top flight guys at the top of the rotation. Don't blow it up right now. I don't know why. The guys on the radio are blowing up. Boomer Esiason's freaking out.
If we are in,
then maybe you still think about it. But
if we're sunk, then.
All right, we can't do any more baseball because we're out of time almost. Triple Crown is alive and well as Justify won another race in the road down at the Preakness at Pimlico. We got 2 more weeks to go before we head out to Long Island for the Belmont, but he did it in the rain like he did in the Derby, and we'll see.
You're saying long-term next week?
No, we are not. Long-term forecast, you said might be rain again. He might have to do 3 Triple Crown races in the rain. We will see. Champions League is this weekend. Real Madrid versus Liverpool. John Henry, minority owner of the Red Sox, main owner of the Red Sox, also part owner of Liverpool. I will be rooting for Liverpool this weekend.
It's Memorial Day weekend. Everybody have a nice and safe one. And
watch out for the fires.
Yes, because it's a high brush fire season right now. So.
All right. Credits are rolling. We're out of here. Take it easy.